สวัสดีครับ My name is สุขุม มาเจริญรุ่งเรือง I act as Assistant Deputy of Secretary of Thai Fertilizer Producer Trade and Association. The topic of presentation today is COVID-19 on fertilizer business and the changing trend. By COVID-19, I'm not talking about is vaccine available yet or how it happens. So we focus on fertilizer aspect. The COVID-19 impact every piece in society and every aspect in this world. So you have to change the way of living, and economy has been slowed down, and we are not sure about. We are roughly guess of that the economic will recover around 2022. So as I told you before, the focus of COVID-19 impacts in this presentation is on agricultural sector in Thailand. So it directly and indirectly relates to the demands of fertilizer. So I want to show you the overview of the agricultural sector in Thailand. The restrictions on imports and exports goods between countries lead to a sudden difficulty in transferring agricultural products between countries. As a result, it heavily impacts a country whose economy is relying on export like Thailand. So the impending in goods movement which shocks the demand and supply is causing the massive economic costs. First, let me give you an example of this. First, as the missing of the middleman due to the restriction of movements between countries and provinces, farmers then have limited ways in selling their products to the end consumers. Therefore, it leads to more supply, lower market price, and hence lower incomes for farmers. So by reducing planting area and cutting extended expense, farmer shrinks investment in plantations. The investment cost has to be reduced because the income is reduced. So the fertilizer, the chemical fertilizer or organic fertilizer that has been applied on the plantation will be cut at least by 25 to 50%. Therefore, the delayed rain season also play important roles in lesser demand for fertilizer application in Thailand this year. It delay about 2 months, and it impacts the demand for fertilizer in Thailand. So these two externalities, talking about delayed rain seasons and lower income for farmers, have led to limited economic activities. Thus, fertilizer business in Thailand this year will be relatively less active compared to the previous one. So as you all know, there are around 5 million tons of chemical fertilizer applied on Thailand soil yearly, and it is only around 500,000 tons that is locally produced. There are two types of chemical fertilizer being applied in Thailand. One is chemical fertilizer. We're talking about urea, diammonium phosphate, and potassium chloride. On the other hand, another type is organic fertilizers. So right now in Thailand, for chemical fertilizer, the fertilizer application in Thailand right now is moving toward blending fertilizer. 4.5 million tons of chemical fertilizer imported into Thailand. It is shown in the figure that the compound fertilizer is around only 1.5 million tons. whereas another 3 million tons is either direct application, like we imported urea, diammonium phosphate, and potassium chloride, and we sell it directly to farmers. We call direct application. And bulk blending chemical fertilizer, both of these type account around 3 million tons a year. So the figure showed us the direct application for chemical fertilizer is around 1 million tons a year in Thailand. And therefore, it left bulk blending chemical fertilizer 2 million tons yearly. But comparing to the past 20 years, bulk blending fertilizer is not famous, it's not well known in Thailand, but right now the figure is increasing and increasing. So it takes around 2 million tons yearly now, almost half of the total imported chemical fertilizer into Thailand. And therefore, we're talking about organic fertilizer and the food safety. So in accordance with international health regulations or IHR 2005, at present, all provinces in Thailand have developed the quality of food up to IHR standard. So Thailand is also embarking on Clean Food, Good Taste Plus to make food safety standards more comprehensive. So this project aims to ensure that hygiene is maintained at all stages, from food preparation and serving preparation to serving the food to customers. In implementation, the food safety policy, Thailand places an emphasis on hygienic and sanitary conditions throughout the food chain under the farm from farm to table concept. The food chain involves all steps, ranging from production to transportation, processing, and distribution to customer. So from farm to table policy, the best practices in the food chain from farm to table, incorporating hygienic processing and adhering to international standards in production and packaging, ensure the highest level of food safety and quality. That is the concept from farm to table. So it ensures at the beginning from farm to the ending that customer eat the goods and the food. So it ensures from the beginning up to the ending. That's we call from farm to table concept. So what is the growing trend of the growing trend in Thailand? We're talking about organic fertilizer. Comparing to last year, the figure in this year is growing around 15%, and the amount of organic fertilizer is running up to 600,000 tons a year. So that would be 50% higher from last year. And the organic food trend popularity is due to the demands and healthy, clean food. And on the supply side, that could utilize the mixed use of chemical and organic fertilizer in their farms. So it will not only produce safety food, but we're talking about a high yield food. So the mixed use of chemical and organic fertilizer is now popular for the supply side. And for the demand side, we're talking about healthy and clean food. So the demand is there and the supply is always there too. So with these two types of popularity, the organic fertilizer become more and more well known and popularity in Thailand. So being so, organic fertilizers such as agricultural compound organic fertilizers, amino humic acids, or potassium humate might be the key to sustainable development of agricultural sector in Thailand and also the food production. That's all. Thank you for being with me to the end of the presentation. Thank you. สวัสดีครับ